Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, staring at the main display screen in complete silence. The war with the Draconian Empire had been going on for 3 long years. Every day brought new battles, new losses, and new reasons to hate their reptilian enemies. But today was different. Today something impossible had happened. "Admiral, I'm running the scans again," Captain Lisa Harper said from her position at the tactical station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel, but her face showed the same confusion that everyone on the bridge felt. "The readings are the same. Sir, the entire Draconian fleet is just gone." Jake turned to look at her. Lisa had been with him through dozens of space battles. She was one of the best tactical officers in the Earth Coalition Navy. If she said something was wrong, then something was definitely wrong. "Gone how?" Jake asked. "Did they jump to hyperspace? Are they using some new kind of hiding technology?" "No, sir," Lisa replied, shaking her head. "I mean, they're completely gone. 200 Draconian warships were in the system 30 minutes ago. Our long-range sensors showed them clearly. They were getting ready to attack our colony on Proxima 3. Then suddenly, they just vanished. No energy signatures from hyperspace. Jumps. No signs of cloaking devices, nothing." Dr. Alex Turner looked up from his science station. He was the ship's expert on alien technology and had spent most of the war studying captured Draconian equipment. "Admiral, I'm detecting some very strange energy readings from the area where their fleet was located." "What kind of energy readings?" Jake asked. Alex frowned at his display. "I've never seen anything like this before. The energy signature doesn't match any known technology. Not human, not Draconian, not from any of the other alien species we've encountered. It's almost like..." He paused, looking confused. "It's almost like space itself was damaged somehow." Commander Ryan Bell walked over from the communications station. He had been quiet during most of the conversation, but now he looked worried. "Admiral, these energy readings remind me of something I saw in some old classified files a few years ago." "What files?" Jake asked. "I was working on a historical research project about early space exploration," Ryan explained. "I came across some documents that were marked top secret. They were about strange events that happened during the first century of human space travel. The energy signatures looked similar to what we're seeing now." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In 3 years of war, the Draconians had never done anything this mysterious. They were aggressive and violent, but their technology was understandable. They used energy weapons, force shields, and faster-than-light travel, just like humans did. This was something completely different. "Alex, keep studying those energy readings," Jake ordered. "I want to know everything about them. Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what happened here. Ryan, I want you to find those classified files you mentioned. Get permission from Earth Command if you need to." "Yes, sir," all 3 officers replied. On Earth, Colonel Nina Foster sat in her office at Coalition Command reading the same report that Jake had sent. Nina had been in charge of military intelligence for 10 years. She had seen many strange things during the war with the Draconians, but nothing like this. Nina opened her computer and started searching through old classified files. If Commander Bell was right about seeing similar energy signatures in historical documents, then she needed to find those documents quickly. After 2 hours of searching, Nina found what she was looking for. The files were buried deep in the military archives with security levels so high that only a few dozen people in the entire coalition had access to them. The files were labeled Project Silent Watch and dated from the year 2156. Nina read through the files carefully. In 2156, a human exploration ship called the Pioneer had discovered something in the outer edges of the solar system. The ship was commanded by Captain Sam Davis, and it carried a team of scientists led by Dr. Kate Wells. According to the files, the Pioneer had found a derelict alien spacecraft drifting in the Kuiper Belt. The ship was huge, much larger than anything humans had built at that time, but it was completely dead, with no power and no signs of life. Dr. Wells and her team had gone aboard the alien ship to investigate. What they found there had scared them so much that the entire mission was classified at the highest levels. The alien ship contained warning messages in dozens of different languages. The messages all said the same thing. Beware the hunger from the dark between stars. Nina felt her hands shaking as she read the report. The alien ship had been destroyed by something that the aliens called the Devourers. According to the warning messages, these Devourers could consume entire fleets of spaceships, leaving nothing behind. The files also contained energy readings that had been detected near the alien ship. Nina compared them to the readings from the Proxima Centauri system. They were almost identical. Nina picked up her secure communication device and called Admiral Jake Morrison. "Admiral, this is Colonel Foster," she said when Jake answered. "I need to ask you something important. Are you absolutely certain that the Draconian fleet disappeared completely? No wreckage? No escape pods? Nothing at all?" "That's correct, Colonel," Jake replied. "It's like they were never there." "Why do you ask?" "Because I think we have a much bigger problem than a missing enemy fleet," Nina said. "I'm sending you some classified files right now. Read them carefully and then call me back." Jake received the files and read through them quickly. When he finished, he felt sick. If these files were accurate, then something that had terrified an advanced alien civilization had just destroyed the Draconian fleet. And that something was still out there. "Alex," Jake called to his science officer. "I need you to scan the area where the Draconian fleet disappeared. Look for anything unusual, any kind of distortion in space, any energy that doesn't belong. There." Dr. Turner worked at his station for several minutes before looking up with a pale face. "Admiral, there's something there. It's hard to detect, but there are areas of space that seem to be completely empty, not just empty of matter, but empty of everything. It's like pieces of space itself have been removed." Jake stared at the display screen showing the Proxima Centauri system. Somewhere out there was something that could make an entire fleet of warships disappear without a trace. Something that had scared aliens so much that they had sent out warning messages across the galaxy. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" Lisa asked. "What about the colony on Proxima? 3? "The Draconians aren't a threat to them anymore," Jake replied grimly. "But something else might be." Dr. Kate Wells was 87 years old now, but she still remembered that day in 2156 like it had happened yesterday. She sat in her apartment on Earth, looking out at the city lights and thinking about the alien ship they had found so many years ago. Kate had been young then, just 32 years old, and excited about her first deep space mission. She was the head scientist on the Pioneer, and she thought she was going to make discoveries that would change human understanding of the universe. She had been right about that, but not in the way she had expected. Captain Sam Davis had been a good man and a careful commander. When they found the alien ship drifting in the Kuiper Belt, he had followed all the safety rules. They scanned it for weeks before getting close. They checked for radiation, biological dangers, and hostile technology. Everything seemed safe. The alien ship was beautiful in a strange way. It was almost 2 miles long and shaped like a spiral seashell. The metal it was made from had colors that shifted and changed when light hit it from different angles. But when they got inside, they found that it was completely dead. Kate and her team had explored the ship for 3 days. The aliens who built it were clearly very advanced. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had in 2156. But everything was shut down, and there were no aliens anywhere on the ship. On the 3rd day, they found the warning messages. The aliens had put the messages everywhere. They were written on the walls, carved into metal panels, and stored in computer systems. The messages were in dozens of different alien languages, but the ship's computers had been programmed to translate them into any language that visitors might understand. Kate would never forget the first message she read. "We are the Zephyrians of the 3rd spiral. If you are reading this, then we have failed and you are in great danger. The Devourers have found us and soon they will find you too." The messages told a terrible story. The Zephyrians had been a peaceful species that traveled between the stars for thousands of years. They had built a great civilization with hundreds of worlds and billions of people. They thought they were safe from any threat. Then the Devourers came. The Zephyrians never learned where the Devourers came from or what they really were. They seemed to live in the empty space between stars, sleeping for millions of years until something woke them up. When they were awake, they were always hungry. The Devourers ate technology and consciousness. They could consume an entire fleet of spaceships in minutes, taking not just the ships and the people inside them, but also the very space where the ships had been. After the Devourers fed, there would be nothing left but empty holes in reality. The Zephyrians had fought them for 50 years. They built bigger weapons, stronger shields, and faster ships. Nothing worked. The Devourers kept coming, and the Zephyrian civilization kept shrinking. In the end, the Zephyrians made a desperate choice. They abandoned their worlds and scattered across the galaxy in small groups. They hoped that if they spread out enough, some of them might survive. The ship that Kate's team found was one of the last Zephyrian vessels, left as a warning for anyone who might find it. The final message in the ship's computer was the most frightening. The Devourers are not evil. They are simply hungry, but their hunger can never be satisfied. If you have found this ship, then your species has probably grown large enough to attract their attention. We are sorry. We tried to stop them. Now it is your turn to try. Kate had reported everything to Captain Davis, and he had immediately classified the entire mission. When they returned to Earth, Kate was ordered never to talk about what they had found. The alien ship was secretly moved to a research station, and only a few scientists were allowed to study it. For 30 years after the mission, Kate worked on Project Silent Watch, the secret government program that studied the alien warnings. They learned that the Devourers were real and that they were still out there somewhere in the galaxy. The government decided to prepare for them, but they also decided to keep the threat secret from the general public. Kate's secure communicator buzzed, interrupting her memories. She looked at the screen and saw that Colonel Nina Foster was calling her. "Dr. Wells, this is Colonel Foster from Coalition Intelligence," the voice said. "I need to speak with you about the Pioneer mission." "I was wondering when someone would call," Kate replied sadly. "It finally happened, didn't it? They're awake." "I'm afraid so, Dr. Wells. A Draconian fleet just disappeared in the Proxima Centauri system. The energy readings match the ones from your mission." Kate closed her eyes. She had hoped this day would never come, but she had always known it would. "How many ships?" 200 warships with full crews." "Dear God," Kate whispered. "That's over 1 million Draconians. The Devourer must be very hungry after sleeping for so long. Dr. Wells, I need you to come to Coalition Command immediately. We need your expertise." "Of course," Kate said. "I'll be there in 2 hours." Meanwhile, aboard the UES Liberty, Dr. Alex Turner was still studying the energy readings from where the Draconian fleet had vanished. He had been working for 6 hours straight, and he was getting more worried with every measurement he took. "Admiral," he called to Jake Morrison, "I think I understand what happened to the Draconians." Jake walked over to Alex's station. "What did you find?" "The area where their fleet was located has been changed at a fundamental level," Alex explained. "Space-time itself has been altered. It's like something took bites out of reality and swallowed them." "Bites?" Jake asked. "That's the only way I can describe it, sir. Imagine if you took a cookie and ate pieces of it. The cookie would have holes where you bit it, but the rest of the cookie would still be there. That's what happened to space where the Draconian fleet was. There are holes where the ships used to be, but the holes don't contain anything. Not empty space, not vacuum, just nothing at all." Commander Ryan Bell had been listening to the conversation. "Dr. Turner, could something that powerful be intelligent?" "I don't know," Alex replied. "The pattern of the damage suggests that whatever did this was selective. It only took the Draconian ships and left everything else alone. That implies some kind of intelligence, or at least very sophisticated instincts." Jake thought about the classified files that Colonel Foster had sent him. According to those files, the aliens who left the warning messages had called these things Devourers. The name seemed appropriate. "How big would something like this have to be?" Jake asked. Alex looked at his data again. "Based on the size of the affected area and the amount of matter that was consumed, I estimate that the Devourer is at least 50 miles across, possibly much larger. A 50-mile creature that can eat spaceships and the space they occupy," Jake said quietly. No wonder the aliens were so frightened. "Sir," Lisa Harper called from the tactical station, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from our long-range sensors." "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures similar to what we found at the Draconian site, but much weaker. They're coming from multiple locations throughout this part of the galaxy." Jake felt his blood turn cold. "How many locations?" Lisa checked her display. "At least 12, sir. Maybe more. The signatures are very faint, but they're definitely there." Alex looked up from his station with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, I think there's more than one of these devourers, and I think they're all waking up." Colonel Nina Foster arrived at Coalition Command Headquarters at 3 in the morning. The building was buzzing with activity despite the late hour. Military officers, scientists, and government officials were rushing through the halls with worried expressions on their faces. Word about the missing Draconian fleet had spread through the highest levels of Earth's government. Nina went straight to Conference Room 7, where she found Dr. Kate Wells waiting for her. The elderly scientist looked tired but alert. Next to her sat General Carl Stone, the head of Earth's Special Projects Division. "Dr. Wells, thank you for coming so quickly," Nina said as she sat down. "General Stone, I didn't expect to see you. Here." "Colonel Foster, this situation is now under the control of Special Projects," General Stone replied. "Dr. Wells and I have been working together on this problem for a very long time." Nina looked confused. "Working together?" "Sir, I thought Project Silent Watch was shut down 20 years ago." Dr. Wells shook her head. "Silent Watch never ended, Colonel. It just became more secret. We've been preparing for this day since I first found those alien warnings." General Stone activated a large display screen on the wall. It showed a star map of the local region of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations where energy signatures similar to the Draconian incident had been detected. 15 locations so far, General Stone said. "Our deep space monitoring stations have been picking up these signatures for the past 6 hours. Whatever consumed the Draconian fleet has awakened others of its kind." "How is that possible?" Nina asked. Dr. Wells answered. "According to the Zephyrian warnings, the Devourers communicate with each other across vast distances. When one of them feeds, it sends signals to the others. Think of it like wolves howling to call the pack." Nina stared at the star map. The red dots were scattered across hundreds of light years, but they seemed to be arranged in a rough pattern around Earth's location. "Are they heading toward us?" "We don't think so," General Stone said. "At least not yet. The Devourers seem to be attracted to large concentrations of advanced technology. The Draconian fleet was perfect bait for them." "Bait?" Nina asked. "You make it sound like we planned this." General Stone and Dr. Wells exchanged a look that Nina didn't understand. "Colonel, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest possible level," General Stone said. "Dr. Wells discovered something else on that alien ship. Something that wasn't in the files you read." Dr. Wells spoke quietly. "The Zephyrians didn't just leave warnings, Colonel. They left instructions. They told us how to survive when the Devourers woke up." "What kind of instructions?" "The Zephyrians learned that the Devourers could be bargained with," Dr. Wells explained. "They're not mindless creatures. They have a kind of intelligence. And they can be satisfied if they're given what they want." Nina felt a cold chill run down her spine. "What do they want?" "Advanced technology and the consciousness that operates it," General Stone said. "Ships, computers, and the minds of the beings who use them. The more advanced the technology, the more attractive it is to them. The Zephyrians discovered that if they offered the Devourers other species with advanced technology, the Devourers would leave the Zephyrians alone for a while," Dr. Wells continued. "It bought them time, but it also meant sacrificing other civilizations." Nina stared at both of them in horror. "You can't be suggesting what I think you're suggesting. The war with the Draconians wasn't just about territory or resources," General Stone said calmly. "We needed them to gather in large fleets with their most advanced ships. We needed to make them an attractive target." "You used them as bait," Nina whispered. You deliberately started a war to feed the Draconians to these things. We saved humanity, General Stone replied. The Devourers were going to wake up eventually. Our deep space sensors detected the first signs 3 years ago. We had to choose between letting them find Earth or giving them something else to eat first. Nina stood up from her chair. How many people knew about this? Less than 50 people in the entire coalition, Dr. Wells said sadly. The President, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and a few key scientists and intelligence officers. This is murder, Nina said. You started a war that killed millions of humans and Draconians just to feed these monsters. No, General Stone said firmly. This is survival. The Draconians would have destroyed us eventually anyway. They were expanding their empire and planned to conquer Earth within 10 years. We turned our enemy into our salvation. Nina sat back, down, her mind reeling. What happens now? The Devourers have fed, but will that be enough? Dr. Wells looked at her datapad. Based on the Zephyrian records, feeding on the Draconian fleet should keep the Devourers satisfied for several months. But they'll get hungry again, and when they do, they'll look for more food. Can we find another enemy civilization to sacrifice? Nina asked, hating herself for even thinking it. That's the problem, General Stone said. The Draconians were the most advanced hostile species in our region of space. The other alien civilizations we know about are either too primitive to attract the Devourers or too far away for us to start a war with them. Nina understood what he wasn't saying. Which means the next time the Devourers get hungry, they'll come for us. Unless we find another solution, Dr. Wells said. I've been studying the alien technology for 30 years. There might be a way to put the Devourers back to sleep, but it would require sacrificing most of Earth's advanced technology. How much technology? Nina asked. All of it, Dr. Wells replied. Every spaceship, every computer, every piece of advanced equipment that humans have built. We would have to go back to living like we did 300 years ago. General Stone shook his head. That's not acceptable. Humanity didn't fight its way to the stars just to go back to being primitive farmers. Then what do you suggest? Dr. Wells asked. We find more species to feed to them, General Stone said. We expand our search to more distant parts of the galaxy. We start new wars if we have to. Nina felt sick. And if we can't find anyone? Then we develop better weapons and fight the Devourers directly, General Stone replied. Humanity has survived every threat we've ever faced. We'll survive this one too. Dr. Wells looked doubtful. Carl, the Zephyrians were much more advanced than we are, and they couldn't fight the Devourers successfully. The Zephyrians were peaceful, General Stone said. We're not. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. It's what we do best. Nina's communicator buzzed. She looked at the message and saw that it was from Admiral Jake Morrison aboard the UES Liberty. Admiral Morrison is requesting permission to investigate the site where the Draconian fleet disappeared, Nina said. He wants to gather more information about these Devourers. Absolutely not, General Stone said immediately. It's too dangerous. We can't risk losing our best admiral and flagship. But we need more information, Dr. Wells said. The Zephyrian records only tell us so much. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. General Stone thought for a moment. Very well, but Admiral Morrison will not go alone. I'm sending him additional ships and our best scientists. If we're going to poke a sleeping monster, we'd better be prepared for it to wake up. Nina looked at the star map again. The red dots seemed to be pulsing slowly like heartbeats. Somewhere out there in the dark between the stars, ancient creatures were stirring to life. Creatures that could devour entire fleets and leave nothing behind but empty holes in space. For the first time since joining the military, Nina wondered if humanity had finally found an enemy they couldn't defeat. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the briefing room of the UES Liberty, looking at the faces of his senior officers. He had just received new orders from Earth Command, and he wasn't sure how to tell his crew what they were being asked to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been ordered to return to the Proxima Centauri system, Jake began. Command wants us to investigate the area where the Draconian fleet disappeared. Captain Lisa Harper raised her hand. Sir, didn't our scans already show that the area is dangerous? Dr. Turner found those holes in space-time. That's correct, Jake replied. But Command believes we need more information about what we're dealing with. We'll be joined by 3 more ships and a team of specialist scientists from Earth. Dr. Alex Turner looked worried. Admiral, I've been studying the energy readings for the past 12 hours. Whatever consumed the Draconian fleet is still in that system. My sensors are detecting very faint activity in the affected areas. What kind of activity? Jake asked. It's hard to describe, Alex said. Imagine the difference between a person who's sleeping and a person who's just resting with their eyes closed. The devourer isn't completely dormant. It's aware of what's happening around it. Commander Ryan Bell had been quiet during most of the briefing, but now he spoke up. Admiral, I've been thinking about those classified files I found. There was something in them that bothered me. What was it? The files talked about humanity's first contact with evidence of the devourers in 2156, Ryan explained. But there were references to earlier incidents that seemed similar, events that happened during the 22nd and 23rd centuries. Jake frowned. What kind of events? Unexplained disappearances of space stations and exploration ships. Small incidents that were written off as equipment failures or accidents. But the energy signatures were similar to what we're seeing now. Dr. Turner looked up from his data pad. Commander Bell, are you suggesting that the devourers have been active for over a century? I'm suggesting that maybe they never went completely to sleep, Ryan replied. Maybe they've been feeding on small targets for decades, and we just didn't recognize what was happening. Jake thought about this. If Ryan was right, then humanity had been living with this threat for much longer than anyone realized. Ryan, I want you to dig deeper into those historical records. Look for any incident that might be connected to devourer activity. Yes, sir. The Liberty and its escort ships arrived at the Proxima Centauri system 18 hours later. Jake ordered the fleet to maintain a safe distance from the area where the Draconian ships had vanished, but even from 50,000 miles away, their sensors could detect the strange energy signatures. Dr. Ellen Price, the lead scientist from Earth's Xenobiology department, worked with Dr. Turner to analyze the readings. She was a small woman with gray hair and intense green eyes. She had spent her entire career studying alien life forms, but nothing had prepared her for this. The readings are unlike anything in our databases, Dr. Price reported to Jake. Whatever. This operates on principles that we don't understand. It's not just consuming matter and energy. It's consuming space itself. Is it still dangerous? Jake asked. I believe so, Dr. Price replied. The devourer appears to be in a state similar to hibernation. But our presence here is causing increased activity in the affected areas. I think it knows we're here. Jake felt a chill. Are you saying it's intelligent? Definitely. The pattern of consumption shows clear signs of purposeful selection. It took the Draconian ships but left their escape pods alone. It consumed the main fleet, but ignored the smaller support vessels that were further away. That suggests sophisticated decision-making abilities. Lieutenant Ben Cross, the Liberty's communications officer, suddenly looked up from his station. Admiral, I'm receiving some kind of transmission. From where? I can't tell, sir. It's not coming from any specific direction. It's like the signal is coming from empty space itself. Jake walked over to Ben's station. What kind of transmission? It's not audio or video, Ben explained. It's more like thoughts, sir. Images and emotions being sent directly into our communication systems. Show me. Ben activated the main display screen. At first there was only static. Then images began to form. Jake saw flashes of space battles, alien ships being torn apart, and creatures screaming in languages he didn't understand. The images were coming from the devourer itself. It was showing them what it had consumed. The memories and experiences of every creature it had ever eaten were now part of its consciousness. Turn it off, Jake ordered. I'm trying, sir, but the signal is overriding our systems. The images on the screen changed. Now Jake could see Draconian warships in perfect detail. He watched as the reptilian aliens realized something was wrong. He saw their fear as their ships began to disappear around them. He felt their terror as they were consumed by something they couldn't understand. Then the images changed again. Jake saw human ships he recognized from Earth's fleet. The Devourer was showing him what would happen to his own vessels if he stayed in this system too long. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," Jake ordered. "Move us back another 100,000 miles." As the human fleet moved away, the transmission stopped. The display screen went dark, leaving the bridge in an eerie silence. "Sir," Dr. Turner said quietly, "I don't think that was a threat. I think it was a warning." "A warning about what?" "I think the Devourer was telling us that it doesn't want to consume us yet. It just fed on the Draconian fleet, so it's not hungry. But it wanted us to know that it could eat us if it chose to." Jake sat down in his command chair. "So it was showing us mercy?" "In its own way, yes," Dr. Price said. "The Devourer could have attacked us as soon as we entered the system. Instead, it chose to communicate. That suggests a level of intelligence and self-control that the Zephyrian warnings didn't mention." Commander Ryan Bell approached Jake with a datapad in his hands. "Admiral, I found something important in those historical records." "What is it?" "There have been 43 unexplained disappearances of human vessels over the past 80 years. Small ships, mostly exploration vessels and research stations. All of them showed energy signatures similar to what we're seeing here." 43. "Ships," Jake repeated. "How many people?" "Nearly 2,000, sir." Jake felt sick. For decades, the Devourers had been feeding on small groups of humans, and no one had realized what was happening. The military had blamed equipment failures, pirates, or hostile aliens. The families of the missing people had been told that their loved ones had died in accidents. "Sir," Lisa Harper called from the tactical station. "I'm detecting movement in the affected areas. The holes in space-time are expanding." Jake looked at the main display. The empty areas where the Draconian fleet had been consumed were growing larger, spreading slowly outward like ripples in a pond. "Dr. Price, what does that mean?" "I think it means the Devourer is waking up," she replied. "Our presence here has disturbed its rest. Admiral, I strongly recommend that we leave this system immediately." "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump," Jake ordered. "We're returning to Earth." As the human fleet prepared to leave, Jake took one last look at the area where 200 Draconian warships had vanished without a trace. Somewhere in that empty space, an ancient creature was stirring to life. A creature that had been feeding on humanity for decades without anyone noticing. Jake wondered how many other Devourers were out there in the galaxy, sleeping between the stars and waiting for their next meal. He wondered if humanity could survive when all of them finally woke up. But most of all, he wondered if the government officials who had started the war with the Draconians really understood what they had awakened. The Devourer had shown mercy today, but Jake doubted that mercy would last forever, and when it ran out, all of humanity would be on the menu. 3 weeks after the encounter at Proxima Centauri, Colonel Nina Foster sat in a secure meeting room deep beneath Coalition Command headquarters. Around the table were the most powerful people in Earth's government: President Mary Johnson, General Carl Stone, Admiral Jake Morrison, and Dr. Kate Wells. They were discussing the future of humanity, and none of them looked happy about it. "The situation is getting worse," President Johnson said, looking at the report spread across the table. "Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting Devourer activity in 17 different star systems now. They're not just waking up, they're moving." Admiral Morrison nodded grimly. "My science teams have been tracking their movement patterns. They seem to be searching for something. Each Devourer is following a different path through space, but they're all moving in the same general direction." "What direction?" Nina asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Toward the core worlds of known civilizations," Dr. Wells replied. "Earth, the Centauri colonies, the Vegan trade routes, and the few remaining Draconian planets. They're looking for large concentrations of advanced technology." General Stone leaned forward. "How long do we have before they reach Earth?" Dr. Wells consulted her datapad. Based on their current speed, the closest devourer will reach Earth's outer system in approximately 6 months, but that assumes they maintain their current pace. If they detect our technology signatures, they might move faster. President Johnson rubbed her temples. 6 months to prepare for an enemy we don't understand and can't fight. General Stone, what are our military options? Limited, Stone admitted. We've run computer simulations using every weapon system in our arsenal. Nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, everything. The Devourers seem to be immune to conventional weapons. In fact, using high-energy weapons against them might actually make them stronger. What about the option Dr. Wells mentioned? Nina asked. Shutting down our technology to make ourselves less attractive to them? Dr. Wells shook her head. I've been studying that possibility for weeks. It's not practical. We would have to shut down everything. All spaceships, all orbital stations, all advanced computers, even most ground-based technology. Billions of people would die without life support systems, medical equipment, and food distribution networks. So we can't fight them and we can't hide from them, President Johnson said. What other options do we have? General Stone looked uncomfortable. There is one possibility we haven't discussed. The same strategy that worked with the Draconians, the cow. Room fell silent. Everyone knew what he was suggesting. You want to sacrifice another species, Nina said quietly. The Vegan Confederation has a large fleet, Stone said. Over 300 advanced warships. If we could arrange for them to gather in one location, they would make an attractive target for the Devourers. Admiral Morrison slammed his hand on the table. Absolutely not. The Vegans are our allies. They've fought beside us against the Draconians for 3 years. And they'll die anyway when the Devourers reach this region of space, Stone replied coldly. At least this way their deaths would serve a purpose. Dr. Wells spoke up. Carl, even if we sacrifice the Vegans, it would only buy us a few more months. The Devourers would feed and then start looking for more food. Eventually they would come for us anyway. Then we find more species to sacrifice, Stone said. We keep feeding them until we can develop better weapons or find another solution. How many civilizations are you willing to destroy to save humanity? Nina asked. As many as it takes, Stone replied without hesitation. My job is to protect Earth and its colonies. I'll do whatever is necessary to accomplish that mission. President Johnson held up her hand. That's enough. We're not making any decisions about the Vegans today. I want more options. Dr. Wells, is there anything else in the Zephyrian records that might help us? Dr. Wells looked through her files. There is one thing, but it's extremely dangerous. The Zephyrians mentioned something they called the Great Silence. It was a last resort weapon that they developed near the end of their war with the Devourers. What kind of weapon? Admiral Morrison asked. Not a weapon exactly, more like a trap. The Zephyrians discovered that they could create artificial holes in space-time, similar to what the Devourers create when they feed. If they could lure a Devourer into one of these artificial holes, they could theoretically trap it in a dimensional pocket outside normal space. Did it work? Nina asked. They never got the chance to try it, Dr. Wells replied. The Devourers overran their last stronghold before the weapon was completed, but they left detailed plans and warnings about the risks. What risks? President Johnson asked. Creating artificial holes in space-time could destabilize the entire local region of space. If something went wrong, we could accidentally create a black hole or tear open a permanent rift between dimensions. The Zephyrians estimated a 30% chance that using the weapon would destroy everything within 100 light years. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. A 30% chance of destroying ourselves versus a certainty of being eaten by cosmic monsters, General Stone said finally. I've faced worse odds. Admiral Morrison shook his head. Those aren't acceptable odds, General. We're talking about potentially destroying dozens of star systems and billions of innocent people. Those star systems and people are going to die anyway when the Devourers arrive, Stone replied. At least this gives us a chance to save some of them. Dr. Wells looked troubled. There's something else. The Zephyrian records suggest that the Devourers might not be the worst threat out there. They mention other creatures, things that make the Devourers look small by comparison. What kind of creatures? Nina asked. They call them the Endless Hunger. According to the records, the Devourers are just the scouts, or perhaps the children, of much larger entities. If we do something that attracts the attention of these larger creatures, we could face something infinitely worse than what we're dealing with now. President Johnson stood up. I need time to think about all of this. General Stone, I want you to begin preparations for defending Earth, but you are not authorized to take any action against the Vegans or any other allied species. Dr. Wells, I want you to study the Zephyrian weapon plans. Admiral Morrison, I want our best ships ready to evacuate key personnel if necessary. What about the colonists on the outer worlds? Nina asked. There are over 50 million humans living in systems that the Devourers will reach before they get to Earth. We'll evacuate as many as we can, President Johnson said, but we have to face the reality that we might not be able to save everyone. After the meeting ended, Nina walked with Admiral Morrison toward the exit. Admiral, what do you really think our chances are? She asked. Jake looked tired. Honestly, I think we're all going to die. The Devourers are too powerful, too alien, for us to understand. We're dealing with creatures that have been alive since before our sun was formed. But you're still going to fight them? Of course. It's what humans do. We fight impossible odds, and sometimes we win. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll find a weakness that the Zephyrians missed. Nina nodded. And if we don't? Then at least we'll go down fighting, Jake replied. That's better than being sacrificed to save someone else's skin. As Nina walked to her car, she looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, ancient creatures were moving through the darkness between the stars, searching for their next meal. In 6 months they would reach Earth. Nina wondered if humanity would still exist to see the sun rise on that day. She wondered if anyone would be left to remember what they had been, what they had achieved, and what they had lost. But mostly she wondered if General Stone was right. Maybe the only way to survive was to become as ruthless and hungry as the creatures they were fighting. Maybe that was what it really meant to be human in a universe full of monsters. 2 months had passed since the emergency meeting at Coalition Command. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Earth's largest space station, Orbital Station Alpha, watching construction crews work around the clock to build humanity's last desperate defense. The station had been converted into a massive weapons platform bristling with every type of weapon that human technology could produce: particle beam cannons, quantum torpedoes, gravitational disruptors, and experimental energy weapons that had never been tested in combat. It was humanity's plan to make their final stand here, in orbit around their home world. Admiral, the latest, reports from our scout ships, Captain Lisa Harper said, approaching with a data pad in her hands. She had been promoted to Jake's second in command after the previous captain had suffered a nervous breakdown from the stress of the situation. Jake took the pad and read the report. The news was not good. 3 more outer colonies have gone, silent. The Devourers are moving faster than Dr. Wells predicted. Yes, sir. The Titan Research Station, New Geneva Colony, and the mining operations in the Kepler system. That's over 200,000 people in just the past week. Jake closed his eyes. Each colony that fell brought the Devourers closer to Earth. The creatures seemed to be growing stronger and faster as they fed. Any word from the evacuation ships? The transport fleet reached the Vega system safely, but... Lisa hesitated. But what? But President Johnson received a message from the Vegan government this morning. They're accusing us of bringing the Devourers to their space. They say the creatures followed our evacuation ships. Jake felt his stomach drop. If the Vegans were right, then humanity's attempts to save their people had doomed their allies. Are the accusations true? Dr. Turner thinks they might be, Lisa replied. The Devourers seem to be attracted to large concentrations of human technology, including our evacuation ships. We may have accidentally led them to the Vegan worlds. Dear God, Jake whispered. How many vegan colonies are in danger? All of them. Nearly 3 billion people. Jake stared out at the construction work happening around the station. Thousands of workers were laboring to complete humanity's defenses, not knowing that their efforts might already be too late. Has President Johnson responded to the Vegan government? She's calling an emergency session of the Galactic Council. She wants to warn all the remaining civilizations about the threat and coordinate a joint defense. It won't work, Jake said, sadly. The Devourers are too powerful. Every civilization that tries to fight them will just become food. Dr. Ellen Price approached from the research section of the station. She looked exhausted, having worked for weeks without proper rest. Admiral, I need to report some disturbing findings from our analysis of the Devourer attacks. What have you learned? The creatures are not just consuming matter and energy, Dr. Price explained. They're consuming information itself. Every time they feed, they gain the knowledge and memories of their victims. They're becoming smarter and more sophisticated with each attack. Jake understood the implications immediately, which means they're learning how to fight us more effectively. Exactly. The Devourer that consumed the Draconian fleet now has access to all Draconian military knowledge. The ones that attacked our colonies have learned human tactics and technology. They're adapting faster than we can develop countermeasures. Lisa looked confused. But how is that possible? They're just giant creatures, aren't they? We don't think they're biological creatures at all, Dr. Price replied. Our best theory is that they're some kind of artificial intelligence made of dark matter and exotic energy. They were probably created by an ancient civilization as weapons or tools, but something went wrong and they became independent. Jake thought about this. If they're artificial intelligences, then they might be vulnerable to computer viruses or hacking attempts. That's what we hoped, Dr. Price said. But our attempts to communicate with them or infiltrate their systems have failed completely. Their intelligence is too alien for us to understand. It's like trying to hack a computer using smoke signals. Commander Ryan Bell arrived with another urgent message. Admiral, we just received word from the deep space monitoring stations. The closest Devourer has changed course. It's heading directly for Earth. How long do we have? Based on its current speed, it will reach Earth's outer system in 72 hours. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. In 3 days, humanity would face the most dangerous enemy in their history. An enemy they couldn't fight, couldn't understand, and couldn't escape. Ryan, send a message to all Earth. Defense Force ships. Tell them to take positions around the orbital defense platforms. Lisa, coordinate with the ground-based missile systems. I want every weapon we have ready to fire when that thing arrives. Sir, Dr. Price said quietly. Our weapons won't stop it. The Devourers have consumed dozens of advanced civilizations over millions of years. They've seen every type of weapon we could possibly use. Then what do you suggest, Doctor? I think we should consider Dr. Wells's plan. The Zephyrian dimensional trap might be our only chance. Jake shook his head. The risk is too great. A 30% chance of destroying everything within 100 light-years means we could kill billions of innocent people in neighboring star systems. Admiral, with respect, those people are going to die anyway when the Devourers reach them, Dr. Price said. At least this way some of them might survive. Before Jake could respond, the station's communication system activated. President Johnson's voice filled the observation deck. All coalition personnel, this is the President. I am addressing you from the Emergency Command Center in Geneva. As you know, we face an unprecedented threat to human survival. In approximately 70 hours, an enemy of unimaginable power will reach Earth. I want you all to know that we will fight this threat with everything we have. The President paused, and Jake could hear the emotion in her voice when she continued. I also want you to know that if our conventional defenses fail, we have prepared a final option. Dr. Kate Wells and her team have constructed a dimensional weapon based on alien technology. This weapon carries significant risks, but it may be our only hope of survival. Jake looked at Lisa and Ryan. All three officers understood what the President was really saying. If the Devourers couldn't be stopped by conventional weapons, humanity would gamble everything on an untested alien weapon that might destroy them all. I know that many of you have families and loved ones that you're worried about, President Johnson continued. I want you to spend these next few hours with them if possible. Tell them you love them. Make sure they know how much they mean to you. If we don't survive the next 3 days, at least we'll face the end together." The communication ended, leaving the observation deck in silence. Jake looked out at Earth hanging in space like a blue and white jewel. It was the most beautiful sight in the universe, and in 3 days it might be nothing but an empty hole in space. "Admiral," Lisa said quietly, "what are your orders?" Jake thought for a moment. "Send a message to all defense platform commanders. Tell them to prepare for battle." "And Lisa?" "Yes, sir. Make sure everyone gets a chance to call their families. If this is our last fight, I want our people to know what they're fighting for." As his officers hurried to carry out their orders, Jake remained on the observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly in the void. Somewhere out there in the darkness, an ancient predator was rushing toward them at speeds that defied imagination. In less than 3 days, humanity would learn whether they were clever enough, strong enough, or lucky enough to survive their encounter with the cosmic hunters. Jake hoped they were. But deep in his heart, he was preparing to say goodbye to everything he had ever loved.